Moving on straight from there, the last class, let's go up and I want to show you file. You're going to notice something in a second, okay? We have these tabs up here at the top. As you add different documents, you're going to get more and more tabs up here. So let's open I'm going to open up another one called Content EPS, open. Okay, and this is a bunch of different vector files. Okay, so if you look up here, you can see that I can also click over here and go back to this file. So you can just go back and forth from different files up here. Okay, now I'm going to click on the space bar again and move around. So one of the things I want to show you that a lot of classes wait until you get into the advanced sections with, and I think it's absolutely essential. Before we start learning how to create shapes and everything, I want you to understand the concept of grouping and nesting, because that's absolutely essential to understanding how Illustrator works. And this is something that's completely different than Photoshop. In fact, I'm going to stop talking about Photoshop. Let's go to this typewriter. Okay, I'm going to zoom in and Control plus, and let's look at this guy. Okay, this is a very complicated vector file. Okay, there's a lot going on here. There's circles. You know, you can see all these little elements here. But when I click on this, it all moves together. So all of these different things are grouped together. Okay? Let's go back a little bit. If I click on this guy, the little tie deal, that'll move together. This will click together. And that's because all of these things are grouped into little groups. Now, in order to see that, we can go over to the Layers panel here. And I want to do something real quick with the Layers panel. I'm going to go down to Panel Options and make these large just so it's easier to see. And we have, I'm going to click on this little triangle, and you're going to see all of the different squares here, all the different vector files. Okay? And if you go a layer deeper, click here, you're going to see the elements that make up those layers. And it's one thing inside another thing inside another thing. So you group things together in order to build things up. Okay? So let's look at this typewriter. The way that you get into that group is if I click on this, and I'm going to double click on it fast, okay? And it's going to bring us into what's called isolation mode. So I'm going to click on this guy, double click, and now you're going to see everything around it becomes whited out. And we're just looking at this guy. And on the layers panel, it's just this guy now. Okay, and this makes things extraordinarily easy to work with in Illustrator. And that's how you can create all of these really complicated shapes, because you're doing one thing inside of another, one group inside of another group inside of another group. So for example, let's zoom in again, Control plus. Now, within this, we have, let's look at the layers. Now we have the background layer and the typewriter. So we can click on the background, move that, or we can click on the typewriter and move that around. Okay? Now I'm going to click on the typewriter and let's see what happens over in the layers panel. Click, click. Now we've just got the typewriter, and let's look down at that. And now you're going to see all of these different areas. Now these are together, this is together, all the keys are together. And you just find one thing within all the papers together. So this paper, if I double click on that, we're going to have the paper here, just the paper. You can't really see it. Now to get out of that, you just double click off of it. So I'm going to double click off of it. And now we're back in the main typewriter. I'm just hitting the space bar whenever I want to move this. Let's look at the keys, because this will probably be the easiest way to look at this. Keys. Now even the key, okay, so let's double click on the keys. Double click. There we go. And now we've just got this stuff here. And double click again. So what you see is it's you've got graphics inside of graphics inside of graphics. And that is the way that you start building things together, okay? And we're going to cover that in more detail later. But this to me is something that's absolutely essential in understanding Illustrator. And I wanted to show you that up front so that once we start getting into things, you have that in mind and understand why I'm grouping things together. Okay, now let's look at these the word hammers. There we go. You can just take that up. Okay, we can click on that. And now you just see what that's made of. You see all the little lines that make up those things. Let's click on the eye so they disappear. See? So you start really building these objects by creating elements that are part of it and then start putting them together. Okay, we got that. So, all right. So let's move on to the next class.